Welcome to this week's End of Days Update, coming to you from Tulsa, Oklahoma. We had such a great time last week at College Creek, Virginia. We were there Sunday and Wednesday. People were hungry, good services. It's so fun seeing people. I say it every week. You see the excitement in people when it catches their heart, literally how close we are to the coming of the Lord. So we had a great time. This week, if you're in Tulsa, Oklahoma, we're at Joseph Roberts' Generation Summit, week of glory. Oh man, it's going to be so fun. It starts tonight. Be Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday, Saturday. We'll have a great time. 2 services at night, 6 p.m. and 7 p.m. We'll get into the presence of God, power of God, the coming of the Lord. We're so blessed to have it all set up right in front of us. So that's what the End of Days Update is all about. We're coming to you each week to look at the different things that point to the coming of the Lord, and specifically the gathering of nations for the Ezekiel 38 war, because that happens just after the rapture. And we know there's sign after sign after sign of the second coming. But the rapture is signless, so you got to look at all the signs of the second coming and back out 7 years. We're very close to the coming of the Lord, and things are happening every single week that I just kind of go, wow, I didn't think I'd see that. Didn't think I'd see that. Very much the days of Noah, literally picturing corruption and violence, weird stuff happening. I don't get into all the weird stuff each week when I cover things. I try to get into more stable things, but man, weird stuff keeps happening every week that I just shake my head and go, Jesus, you got to be coming really soon. So. We're set up. I mean, the Lord said, when you see these things come to pass, lift up your heads, your redemption draws nigh. So He doesn't want you downtrodden, He wants you excited. Why? We get into end-time preaching to look at a finish line, to accelerate and to hustle. It's not an escape theology, it's a hustle theology. So I look at it this way in college football. I watch the quarterback not pay attention to the play clock. It freaks me out. And the church has to get that kind of mentality that the countdown is on. I hear people go, oh, we got all the time in the world. Not if you believe the Bible, because there's sign after sign after sign showing us we're the generation that Jesus is coming back. And I say that, and guys will walk up and go, well, you can't tell when the Lord's coming back. Well, He made it pretty blatant to have a third of the Bible prophecy so that you could tell what's happening just before the King returns. That's the big deal, where the earth will bow in adoration, the heavens will fold back, the sun won't give its light anymore, and there'll come the entrance of the King. We'll be right there behind Him on white horses. So everything is set up for that. Every movie you see where the hero comes in at the end of the day, saves the day, they get that from the Bible, Jesus coming back at the second coming. So let's pick up with what's happened around Israel. All kinds of things keep happening that are blatantly showing us how close we are. I mean, you had Hezbollah threatened this week from the north. We're getting ready to attack Israel. So Israel's completely under assault all the time. You had Israel do an airstrike in Syria. What'd they do? Those missiles that are coming down from Iran into Syria, guess where they end up? They end up in Damascus. And in Damascus, they changed the routing systems and their pinpoint accuracy things on these missiles, taking them from 1970 technology to 2023 technology. Well, Israel keeps having to blow those up because they could fire those missiles right into Israel. The weird thing we don't realize sometimes is Damascus, when you're in Jerusalem or on the Golan Heights, the northern part of Israel, you can see the lights of Damascus right there. It's not that far away. And the Bible says that Damascus will be removed from being a city, Isaiah 17:1. So Israel's having to stop the convoy of weapons coming close to Israel, and there's continues to be many more things like that, all the threats that keep coming. You have an exercise that Israel was doing with America this last week. You have Israel's chief defense forces going out and talking to the reservists, because the reservists are trying to protest the judicial reform. You have all these protests of judicial reform this last week. I mean, it almost stopped the Ben Gurion airport, had a whole terminal shut down because everybody's freaking about judicial reform. I tell you what's going on is one of the past prime ministers is spending hundreds of millions of dollars to stir up trouble with all these people because they don't like that conservatives are running Israel right now. One of the prime ministers that are doing this are the ones that offered Yasser Arafat everything he asked for. One of the prime ministers offered that, and he didn't even take it. And you know what? Hafez Assad told Yasser Arafat years ago. Hafez Assad was the president of Syria. He was one of the most evil dictators ever. He told Yasser Arafat, there is no such thing as Palestinian people. That's a made-up word. You have Jews, you have Turks, you have Arabs that were there in the land, but they weren't Palestinians. That was a made-up word. Why do I say that? Just like Islam says Jerusalem's holy to them, yet it's not mentioned once in the Quran, but it's mentioned over 660 times in the Bible. So it's not holy to Islam, it's holy to Jews. So lots happening that are just things turning over in front of our eyes, showing us this is it. I mean, you had the president of Israel, Herzog, speaking to the Congress yesterday here in America. and Biden has not even invited Netanyahu, but finally he made a phone call and invited him. You have our Congress did a vote of solidarity toward Israel, 412 votes against 9, saying that Israel is not a racist country or an apartheid country. But you had 9 of our senators say that Israel's an apartheid country, which is absolutely insane. So it's interesting to see the votes that keep coming down. I mean, you even had a vote from our U.S. House of Representatives saying that the act of marriage coming together, we're going to take away the words husband and wife. That's how weird everything's getting. You got North Korea threatened again this last week that they're going to fire missiles at America. I like that South Korea piped up and said, you know what, if you fire missiles at America, we're going to wipe North Korea off the map. So there's so much verbiage about the Battle of Armageddon. There's so much verbiage about the second coming. You still have radical continuing fighting between the Ukraine and Russia. Many more things keep happening. You got an asteroid that came through last night, 100 meters in diameter. So there's things that we can't even cover about the weirdness that's happening. But man, when it comes down to nations and when it comes down to things happening, you got Turkey and you got Egypt helping Saudi Arabia with drones. You have the setup for everything that's going to happen after we leave, with nations falling into position and falling more into position, one little element after another. And I sit there and go, oh my God, these are all things that are setting us up for Jesus just about to come back. Wow, the King's coming back. So we always, every week, go to all the signs. And you say, why do you do that? Because the Scripture's flawless. You can have things happening around you. Even if I didn't have the signs, I have a witness in my spirit that's telling me the King's coming. But you have Israel regathered in our lifetime, Jerusalem won back, you got the Hebrew language restored, you got the Ethiopian Jews brought back, you got the fertility of the land of Israel, you got the revival of the Roman Empire. You had a guy from the EU, the revival of the Roman Empire, fly a kite into Gaza, one of those hang gliders, to show solidarity with the Palestinians. This is the EU. So you have all these signs happening right now. You got their building is in Strasbourg, France. It's identical to the Tower of Babel. You got foxes show up on the Temple Mount. You had fish show up in the Dead Sea. You had the Dead Sea turn blood red last fall where Sodom and Gomorrah was on the Day of Atonement. You have the ritual baths around the Temple Mount fill up with water, first time in 2,000 years. So you have all these things. You have predatory birds. You have 170 different species of predatory birds start showing up in the land. I mean, you've got the cleanup crew after the Ezekiel 38 war and after the Battle of Armageddon. God calls on the fowl of the air to come clean the land up. So the cleanup crew's there. You have the Temple Mount Institute that's ready to start having sacrifices. You had a video up on the temple. This is crazy. You had the priestly blessing come out in a video a couple of days ago. The Palestinians went crazy. The Jordanians went crazy. So you have priestly blessings happening with the Dome of the Rock in the background. So you have all that happening right now because the Lord's about to come back. So crazy. You had Bishop Malachi. We'd say Malachi. Bishop Malachi, History Channel, 1129 AD, had a vision of every pope's coat of arms all the way up into the coming of the Lord. He got 114 popes out of 114. What's the pope that we have now? The 114th. History Channel said that's statistically impossible. Only a God could do that. So what's cool about the Bible is we have all these signs, and God said, this is how you can tell I'm God. I'm going to tell you the end from the beginning. I'll tell you the future before you get there. So sign after sign after sign after sign, many more, hundreds of signs. We tailor it down to about 79 to 80 in the book, but there's about 20 that are amazing. I always joke about Steven Tyler. I put that on our T-shirt. Aerosmith's lead singer got saved. That's one of the main signs of the coming of the Lord. I love that. But you have all of these, and then you go from signs to signals. You had blood red moons on Passover and Tabernacles. When's the last time you had 4 in a row on Passover and Tabernacles? 1967 when Jerusalem was won back. 1948 when Israel was made a nation. 1492 at the Edict of Expulsion when the Jews were kicked out of Spain. God raised up Columbus to sail the ocean blue. 1492, what did he do? He founded America, a safe harbor for the Jews. Then after that, you had the Bethlehem star, Jupiter, Regulus, and Venus coming together at the birth of Jesus. How amazing. King planet, mother planet come together. First time, amazing. What was the constellation? Virgo. This last year, NBC Nightly News, we have a Bethlehem star, Jupiter, Regulus, Venus coming together. What was the constellation? Leo. He's the lion of the tribe of Judah. Many more heavenly signals going from signs to signals. Just even the eclipses that you have this year, both of this year and next year, they both crisscross where the Madrid faults were right there in Illinois. Absolutely amazing. In 2017, when that happened, the city that it started on the West Coast was Salem. The city that it finished on the East Coast was Salem. Jerusalem, peace, city of peace. So you got the heavens declaring something's up. So what do we do as a church? What do we do as believers? We help our local church. We help our local pastor. We hustle. We're more engaged. Everything is about not fitting church into your life. It's about church is your life. There's nothing greater than getting souls saved right before we leave. And there's a commission, there's a mandate on the church to go for it. If there ever was a time, I've never seen a runner see the finish line and go, oh, wow, what was that? No, every runner knows exactly what the finish line is. So let's go for it. We're about to see the King. Man, have a blessed, awesome week. We'll see you next Wednesday.
Thanks for joining us today at the End of Days Update. If you'd like to be notified every time there's a new post, just go to the edu at josephmorris.com and subscribe to receive email alerts. If these posts and updates have been a blessing to you, please consider making a one-time donation to help get the message out, or even becoming a monthly partner with Joseph Morris Ministries. Thanks again for tuning in to the EDU, and we'll see you next week.